Did you know that grief can feel especially intense during menopause and perimenopause? Sometimes it comes from obvious losses, like the death of a loved one or a cherished pet. Other times it appears without any clear cause at all. It can be overwhelming, confusing, and hard to understand. Let's explore why grief and those unexplained waves of sadness run so deep during this stage of life. Unfortunately, this stage of life can be overwhelming as it is, but it's also a time in our lives where there's major transitions going on. We're more likely to experience grief through the death of parents, elderly relatives. It could be the end of a relationship. It could be children leaving home. So all of these things adding up together can make us feel much more pain. It can be much more difficult to help us grieve properly, to not get over it, but just to cope with it when we've got all these other things going on at exactly the same time. So hormonal shifts can amplify everything that we feel. So although we may have had losses in the past, we may have been able to deal with them that little bit easier. Whereas now, with everything else going on, it can just get to the point where we feel totally overwhelmed. There's also the other side of the coin, if you like, as well, and that's unexplained grief. So many describe this as just, they can't pinpoint it. It's just like overwhelming sadness, or a vague sense of longing for something, but they don't know what. It can just be persistent emotional heaviness. You feel something is weighing you down and you feel profoundly sad, unhappy. You find it difficult to get out of, but you just don't know why this is happening. Um, so it's a difficult one to understanding. So the reason why this can happen, so it's all to do with the emotional changes that are going on. You may feel that maybe you're grieving for your younger self. You see your image changing, your body shape is changing. You don't feel as energetic and as body confident as you did before. You may be grieving the loss of fertility. This is a really big one. Even if you've never had children, even if you've never wanted children, there may be this grief of things that never came to pass. It can also just be grieving the passage of time. We can find, and I know it's something that's happened to me, is that we realize that we're not immortal anymore. We focus on our mortality, if you like, and we realize too that can make us sad about missed opportunities, about missed dreams, about wishing we'd done something completely different and we didn't have the strength or the courage to do so. So remember, in either case, this grief is real. And especially for the grief that we're not really sure about, this is real. It's not in your head. You're not going mad. There is a real reason for this, even if there isn't any trigger that you can think of. So what happens here, so within our brain and our body when this is happening? Why on earth does it feel so intense or so unpredictable? So here's what's going on. It's all about the hormonal shifts. Estrogen and progesterone influence mood regulation, and they help to regulate neurotransmitters such as serotonin and dopamine. And as estrogen declines, the brain, this affects our serotonin and dopamine levels, which can affect our mood. It makes us much more sensitive to emotional triggers, sadness, and grief, and these can become much more pronounced. It can also be due to our limbic system. So the limbic system is part of the brain that processes emotions and memories. So if our estrogen decreases, the limbic system becomes, we can't control it as much. It becomes much more unreliable, so that old wounds or memories can open up, and old memories, hurtful memories, sad memories can suddenly just resurface anywhere at any time. The other thing that can happen is we have more layers of stress that we have to deal with at this particular point in life. So you can still have children at home, you may be working full-time or part-time, you may have to look after your parents, there may be job stresses, there may be relationship shifts, and all of these compound our emotions and put extra pressure on how we feel about everything. So what can help here? Whether we're linked to specific grief in that there's a loss of somebody or something that's happened recently, or it's something that has bubbled up from the past, all of this deserves your attention, your care, and your compassion. So the first things not to do, don't dismiss it, and don't let anyone else dismiss you either and say, oh, it's just your hormones playing up. This is real, it's real for you, you're experiencing the heartache and all the emotions that go with it. So don't pressurize yourself to get over it. We have such a bad habit in the perimenopause, menopause, of trying to soldier on and get through it. We need lots of compassion for ourselves. Don't label being sadness. Don't label it as being a weakness because you can't cope about it. You don't have to fix it, but you can slow down. So grief is really, really draining, and it's okay to do less, to do, just simply be and to rest and to allow yourself to process this properly without all the stresses and strains from the world on top of you as well. Talk to somebody, talking therapy, getting to see a grief counselor, getting to talk to a therapist can be so cathartic and helpful for you. Maybe you've got a really good friend who's only always happy to listen to you and to support you and not make any judgment at all. So express your grief too. And I talk quite openly about journaling, writing things down. This is just for you, and you can say exactly how you feel, knowing that no one else is going to see it or read it. Crying as well, it's not a weakness. It can really be an emotional release. And I did talk about grief a little bit in last week's vlog, and so many of you have got back to me about how you're feeling during grief, and I just felt this was a really important subject to cover. And so many of you said that crying really helps. So if you get to that point, as long as it's appropriate to do so, just cry, let it all out, and that can certainly help in the healing process. Be kind to yourself as you would be kind to a friend who's going through the same process, because we beat ourselves up, don't we, so often that we will quite, hurriedly criticize ourselves, and we wouldn't ever consider doing that to a friend. So give yourself plenty of compassion, and it's okay to feel this way. This is a big phase in the menopause. It's something we have to get through, and just allowing yourself to slow down and to help yourself through it is going to give you time to heal. I hope you found this helpful. As I said before, I got a huge response for this particular one through the menopause, and it's so difficult if you're coping with recent loss, or you're having to re-deal with loss that happened many, many years ago. Please don't suffer in silence with this one. It's so important to get help one way or another. So I hope you found it helpful. For those of you that have been through this, please share your stories, because there's others out there now that are looking for some way ahead. What helped you? What did you do? What made a difference in your life? Have a lovely week, and I'll see you soon.